Good morning, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pool Talk, hosted by me, Alex Cater. Oh my god! Okay, today we'll be joined by a special guest, Dan Hommins, as we delve into the recent issues between the U.S. and Iran. This will then lead us to a deeper question of, will there ever be a day in which there is no war? On that note, we welcome to our pool Dan Hommins. It's a little chilly.
Ooh, hello everyone, and thanks for having me on the show, Alex.
It is our pleasure as always. Now Dan, tell us about the recent developments between the U.S. and Iran.
Ah yes, Iran. Iran has been toying with the idea of creating nuclear weapons. As U.S.-Iranian relations have been strained for many years, the development of nuclear weapons would be a threat to our national security. The U.S. also has interest in the area, especially oil, which could be threatened by Iranian WMD as well. Our Navy would no longer be safe in the area of Bahrain, so to ensure our safety, the U.S. has been trying to implement sanctions of Iran. This has led to several strained relations between U.S. and Iran.
And where do you think that will take us in terms of war?
In order to determine that, I think we should look back at previous wars and their causes.
Since the dawn of time, peoples have been warring. Our journey begins at the center of the 20th century, the First World War. The seeds of the First World War were planted by multiple farmers. Not one single farmer to blame for the poisonous fruit, it belonged to all. The first was Farmers' Alliance. He had a huge family, so whatever he did, they all got dragged in. Farmer imperialism tried to farm other farmers' lands. These got those seeds planted everywhere, not just on farmer imperialism's land. Farmer militarism stockpiled many seeds and plows, more than he needed for his land. These many seeds and many plows made others nervous that he would try to attack their land with his plows and seeds. Lastly, farmer nationalism thought he was better than everyone else. So when farmer imperialism tried taking his land, he fought back with his pitchfork and hose. Thus began World War I. The next big war, the Second World War, had several causes as well. Germany was in a state of malcontent. They were bitter towards the rest of the world after getting brutally punished in the Treaty of Versailles after the First World War. This led to an extreme nationalistic feeling led by Adolf Hitler. This resulted in expansion by the Germans and Nazis, which greatly upset many other countries who then declared war on Germany. In the eastern part of the world, Japan had long desired to be part of the imperialistic game that the rest of the world partook in, before World War I. The Japanese brutally and quickly expanded, aggravating the Eastern world. The Western world and Eastern world combined in their hatred of the Germans and Japanese to create World War II, a war caused by genocide, malcontent, nationalism, and increased expansion. The Cold War was not a war in the fighting sense. However, both the U.S. and the Soviet Union were in a wartime mentality, preparing for the worst. This war was caused by a difference in beliefs and fear. The U.S. wanted all countries to be democratic and capitalistic. However, the Soviets were trying to be a communist state. Both were rapidly building up nuclear weapons, which had been showcased by the U.S. on Japan in the Second World War. The mounting fear created by the possibility of nuclear war is what actually drove the Cold War into consideration as a war. There were also several causes for war in Iraq. First were the rumor of weapons of mass destruction in the country. The U.S. felt unsafe with the possibility of WMDs in a country that has bad relations with the United States due to their invasion of Kuwait, a U.S. ally. Second, the current dictator, Saddam Hussein, did not behave favorably towards the U.S. and, as a dictator, went against our beliefs in democracy. The U.S. wanted a change in the regime to get someone more favorable towards them and democracy. Lastly, there was a possible link to al-Qaeda in Iraq. After the tragic attacks on September 11, 2001, the slightest mention of al-Qaeda was enough to send some Americans to war. The compilation of those three things pushed the U.S. into war with Iraq. Terrorism. This is the primary cause for war in Afghanistan. The terrorist attacks performed on September 11, 2001 by a member of the Islamic fundamentalist group Al-Qaeda were the catalyst for the longest war in American history. However, the reasoning behind the terrorist attacks also needs to be taken into consideration. The leader of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, has cited the reasoning behind the attacks as being the U.S. intervention in the Middle East as well as their continued support of Israel. Afghanistan was caused by terrorist attacks on the U.S. for the involvement in the Middle East.
Wow, now that is some serious business. Now that we know how the other wars began, do you think Iran will turn into a war?
I'm sorry, Alex, but I can't predict that. There are too many causes for me, or anyone of that matter, to determine it. Even if we could pinpoint one thing, there's really just one reason for war as seen in the flashback.
Do you think there will ever be a day in which war will no longer be an issue?
I wish I could say yes, but as we saw, there are too many reasons and causes for war to be able to stop it. It is impossible to say what will trigger a country to go to war, which makes it impossible to prevent.
Well, there you have it. Thank you for joining Dan and I on another episode of Pool Talk, and tune in next week for another riveting episode of Pool Talk.
Thanks for swimming!
My dress is coming back up.
This show sucks. I don't get paid enough for this shit.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
No, I probably should have grabbed towels. Huh?
It's usually warmer out.